Hello student, I'm Mr. Leung. So in this video, I'm going to talk about one question in the ecosystem part 1. So before we talk about the question, I would like to recall some basic concept of this chapter. So remember that ecology is the study of the relationship between organisms and their environment. So that means in this chapter, we need to be able to identify whether the factors they are living or non-living. So that's why I would like to remind the first page, okay, those keywords: habitat, population, community, and ecosystem, okay? Are they living or not? And the one thing I would like to recall is that the ecosystem, okay, that's the organism, okay, that's the system, okay, containing the organisms interacting with one another and with their physical environment. So that means the living and the non-living factors, they can interact with each other. But not only the organism or the living things, they can interact with each other, but also the living things, they can interact with the non-living factor. That means the physical environment, okay? And also these three words, I explain it in the lesson, so I skip it in this video. And before we talk about the question, okay, also I would like to recall, okay, abiotic and abiotic factor, these two words, these terms, okay, to indicate the living and non-living part in the ecosystem. So for the abiotic factor, that means the physical environment factor, okay, environmental factor, though they are non-living. So for example, the temperature, the light intensity, or the humidity, or the salt concentration, okay, that's something else, okay, in the abiotic factor. And also the biotic factor, that means they are the living component. That means all the organisms, plants, animals, maybe fungi, maybe bacteria, something like this. So in this part, okay, I recall, okay, the concept from the biodiversity. That means in the chapter 19, okay, biodiversity. Actually, the 6 kingdoms, those organisms, they are the biotic factor. They are the biotic factor. And also turn to page 5, okay, and you can see the interaction between the biotic and abiotic factor, okay. So on the upper part, that's the abiotic factor. How can they interact with each other, okay? And also the biotic factor, how can all the living things, okay, they interact with each other, and how the environmental factor affects the organism, or the organism, how can we affect, okay, the environmental factor. And most likely in this diagram, I would like to show that the key concept in the ecosystem, what we are going to study, and also the key point of the elective 2, the applied ecology, actually is talking about the number, distribution, and behavior of a species, okay. And these factors, okay, or this concept, they are affected by those biotic factor and abiotic factors, okay. A very complicated interaction among them, but not just a single simple interaction, okay. It's a very complex network in the ecosystem, okay. So after this simple reminder, I would like to talk about the questions. So you can turn to page 7 to take a look at the question. So in this question, we are talking about the ecosphere. So actually in different textbook, okay, so they may not use the terms ecosystem, they may use the term biosphere, okay, ecosphere or biosphere. That's the same idea, okay. Actually even they use the different word, okay. So in this part, for the ecosphere, any word to describe it: self-contained and self-sustaining. Actually, these two words, okay, we learn it to describe the ecosystem. Self-contained, what does it mean? Self-contained, actually, the question already told you that it's self-supporting. Okay, that's the word we learn in the textbook and also in the notes. Okay, self-supporting. That means it contains all the resources already. Okay, all the resources already, and we do not need any external resources. Okay, that's the concept we learn. Okay, and also this paragraph, okay, they claim that this ecosphere can do this thing. Okay, and also self-sustaining. Okay, actually from the book we know that it recalls the concept of cycling of material. Okay, we do not need to be afraid that all the materials, all the resources, they will be consumed, they will be used up. No, don't worry. Okay, we can recycle it. We can do the cycling of material. Okay, and also this diagram, okay, it also reflect this concept. Okay, recycling of material inside the ecosphere. Okay, food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, inorganic nutrients, they are those, okay, and also the organic waste, okay, they are those materials, okay, we can use it and recycle it, decompose it, okay, those concepts. And then later on, okay, how can we describe the ecosphere? Okay, it's airtight. That means we do not need to input any air, any gases into this sphere. Okay, so it recall the concept. External resources are not required. Okay, so and then we take a look any organisms raw, active microorganism, the shrimp, okay, and also the algae. Okay, and where do they live? Okay, they live in a filtered seawater. Okay, so at least you know that the water should be clean. Okay, so don't think that even the organisms they die. Okay, they die due to the seawater is so dirty. No, okay, they die because of the waste they produce. Okay, but not due to the seawater. They are dirty itself. No. Okay, and also the ecosphere, they claim that it's self-sustaining, okay, just like what we are talking about before. Okay, and that's why we do not need to feed, okay, the shrimp. And then how can we operate this ecosphere? Okay, it says that we just provide the ecosphere with the source of light, so that means they are the ultimate energy source. Okay, that's what we learn in the textbook. Okay, that's the energy source. We need it to drive the ecosystem to run. Okay, so that's why we can enjoy those balanced ecosystem in the ecosphere. Okay, and also in this ecosphere, okay, as we say before, it should be relatively stable. Okay, it should be relatively stable. So does this paragraph talk about this concept, relative stable ecosystem? Yes, it does. Okay, so that's why because the living resources within the ecosphere, okay, the living resources, that means the shrimp and the microorganism and the algae, okay, within the ecosphere utilize, that means use the resources without overpopulating, that means overpopulation, over too much population, the number, the total number, okay, of those organisms. So actually they will not, okay, that means the population will not grow continuously and unlimitedly. Okay, actually the population size, okay, is relatively fixed, constant. Okay, and also the living resources, that means the organisms, okay, they use those resources, okay, they will not cause any contamination. Okay, so the other concept is that there will not be too much waste in the ecosphere. Okay, not too much organisms will be reproduced, and not too much waste will be produced. Okay, it's talking about the number of organisms. It's talking about the waste produced by the organism. Okay, no such thing will happen without. Okay, no such thing will happen. So that's why we do not need to clean. Okay, and just provide minimal care is okay. So for part A1, A2 is quite simple. Okay, it told us to talk about the biotic factor and also the abiotic factor. Okay, but there is some constraint. Okay, so biotic factor not that difficult, because that means living things. Okay, that means the living organism. Okay, in the ecosphere. So what are living? Active microorganism or the bacteria. Okay, so the shrimp and also the algae. Okay, so you can find them here: bacteria, the shrimp, and also the algae. Okay, so that's simple question, 3 marks, done. Okay, so for the part 2, okay, it gives you the constraint. The limitation is that besides gases and organic food, that means gases and organic food, they are already a biotic factor. Okay, so but in the question, okay, you cannot mention them. Okay, so for example, gases. What type of gases? Now, even they cannot be regarded as the answer, but I would like to remind you that, okay, the gases, oxygen, CO2, okay, those gases, okay, but we cannot write it down because besides gases, okay, and organic food. So if we do not talk about organic food, so what about we talk about inorganic food, okay, and also for other concepts, okay, for example, if the algae, they need to survive, okay, and also in the paragraph, okay, it's talking about we should provide the ecosphere with a source of light. Light, the light intensity, weak or strong, is also an abiotic factor, okay, so not that difficult to understand. Light, water, and also the inorganic mineral salt, okay, and in this part I would like to remind you that is for the inorganic mineral salt, of course you can copy, okay, from the question, okay, but it's talking about inorganic nutrients. These terms is just too general, okay. What does it mean, nutrients? Actually, inorganic nutrient, it means inorganic mineral salt, okay, and I would like to mention it because in this part, inorganic mineral salt is for plant to absorb, okay. Plant will absorb such inorganic minerals. For example, what you learned before is the nitrate, okay, to make the amino acid in the plant, okay. That's something you learn in chapter 9, okay. In chapter 9, it's talking about the plant nutrition, okay. So what does it mean? It means that you need to do revision for other chapters, but not only the chapter 20, okay. This chapter, like ecosystem, okay. So that's for biotic and abiotic factor, okay, not that difficult. And besides that, okay, we have part B. So part B, I would like to introduce you another concept, okay, a thinking logic, okay, a logical thinking to express your answer, okay. So now we have the case, okay, and then because the student, okay, he wants to buy the ecosphere and give it to the biology teacher as the birthday present, okay. So what did he do? He put and closed the present in a thick paper box, wrapped it in a beautiful silvery paper, okay. In this question, okay, the main idea I want you to recall is that, so what will be the light intensity for the ecosphere, okay? Is light any more for the ecosphere, okay? So, and one more thing, okay, he decides to give the present to the teacher after 10 days. Such a clever boy, okay. So what will happen, okay? For whom? For the algae, okay, for the algae. So in this part, what is the undesirable consequence, okay? Anything bad will happen. So in this part, at least something you know. For the light, so is it there any light? Yes or no? Okay. So if there is no light, of course, okay. So what will happen to the algae? For the algae, actually they are the plant-like microorganism. So what the next question you need to tell me is about the photosynthesis, okay. Also yes or no? Of course no, okay. And then what will be the result, or what will be the consequence will happen? And of course this question you only need to tell me the result is okay. Only 1 mark for the undesirable consequence, okay. So for these first two steps, okay, actually that's the explanation, okay. So part B1 for the result. So about these two is the explanation in our part 2, full explanation for the undesirable consequence to the algae. So in this part, I would like to introduce the logical thinking steps for you guys, okay. So for doing the ecosystem question, actually because we always talk about the interaction amongst the organisms, and also the interaction between the organism and the environment, okay, abiotic factor and the abiotic factor. So that's why we need to consider all the things in the question. So for the first part, what I want you to talk about is that, okay, what is the environmental factor now? Okay, so what is the environment? Okay, we talk about the environmental factor. Of course, in this question, the factor we are talking about is the light. Okay, is it present or absent? Okay, and then the second step is that if we know that the light or the key concept in this question, okay, is absent, so what will be the effect on the organism? Okay, what will happen to the organism? Okay, so that's why we need to think about the organisms. And in this question, we talk about the algae. Okay, what they can do or what they cannot do. Okay, in this question. Okay, and of course, we're talking about light. We're talking about the algae, the plant-like organism. Of course, photosynthesis will be our key concept we need to mention. Okay, but remember, don't just tell me yes or no for photosynthesis, because what we need is a full explanation. Okay, so photosynthesis for what, you need to tell me. Okay, so that's why he's talking about the first step in this question. Okay, actually we keep talking about the death of the organism, okay, in this ecosphere. So sad. So the first step in this type of question is that the cause of death. Why do they die of? Okay, so you can say that they die of something, or they die, okay, due to something. Okay, so actually it just would like to show the cause and effect. They die of something, due to something, because of something. Okay, so the cause of death. So in this part, according this logic, okay, we know that, think about it, without light, the algae cannot undergo photosynthesis for something important, and then they die of what? Okay, so for the basic concept, they die, of course. Okay, and then the concept is that because the box, the thick paper box and the silvery box, okay, actually do not allow any light to penetrate into the ecosphere, or you can simply to talk about that without light. Why there is without light? Because the ecosphere is put into the thick paper box, okay, and with the silver paper wrapping, okay, and then due to lack of energy, okay, what type of energy, you need to tell me. Of course, light energy. Okay, that's something you need to know, and also what you mentioned before. Okay, so remember that some answer key, okay, I show you actually is not that perfect, and I also did not correct them because I want to tell the special thing at this time. Okay, so don't just think about I just memorize all the answer from the maybe for the textbook, maybe some exercise book. No, the answer may not be that perfect. Okay, maybe some key question, key concept, okay, is missing. So due to the lack of light energy, so the algae cannot produce food by photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is must, but for what? For food production. That's the importance of photosynthesis. The food, that's the main product, right? Okay, so you need to mention it. The algae or the plant, they do photosynthesis for what? For this main product. Okay, and then because there is not sufficient food, so they die due to starvation. Tell me the reason, but not just tell me they die. Of course they die, but I want to know the reason. Okay, so that's the part B1 and B2. Okay, and then for B3, okay, it says that moreover, okay, the shrimp, they also die. Okay, the other organism, they also die. Okay, that's the consumer, right? Okay, if the algae is the producer, and then the shrimp, okay, that's the consumer, the primary consumer, they also die. Okay, so tell me two possible reasons, okay, of the death. Okay, so explain, okay, fully. Actually, in this part, we also apply this concept. Okay, so the thinking logic is that think about the environmental factor. Okay, so what happened to the environment, and then what is the effect on the organism? The same idea. Okay, and then why do they die? Okay, why do they die? The reason, okay, of that. So the concept is that you need to know actually how what thing can an algae provide to the shrimp. Okay, anything special is that all the algae, okay, they die and then the shrimp follow. Okay, any special interaction between them. Okay, so for the algae is not difficult to understand. Algae undergo photosynthesis. Okay, and we know that there is no light at all, so photosynthesis cannot be performed, right? So what I want you to recall is that to think about it before you take a look at the answer. Photosynthesis, what does it produce? In the previous question, we know that main product, food, and the other one, the byproduct, is oxygen. So for these two materials, you know that the two possible causes of death. Okay, so according to this logic, okay, so we take a look at the question, answer. So no photosynthesis of algae, so that means not sufficient O2, okay, will be produced. Okay, so because of the absence of light, there is low light. Environment factor, okay, there is no light, and the effect on the organism, algae, they cannot undergo photosynthesis, and then no oxygen release. But you need to talk about the effect on the shrimp. So the shrimp, they undergo respiration and consume all the oxygen finally. So that's why do they die? They die of suffocation, lack of oxygen, right? Okay, also follow these thinking steps: environment, effect on the organism, and why do they die. Okay, and then moreover, the decreases of the algae population. Okay, so provide insufficient food for the shrimp. So why do they die? They die of starvation. Okay, two possible reasons of death. Okay, so that's the basic concept. And also you may ask, no, Mr. Leung, for the point number 2, reason number 2, I cannot see the environment factor wall. Actually, it's hidden by no light. Okay, it also starts from low light. No light, no photosynthesis of the algae. So some of the algae, of course, they die. Okay, they die of what? They die of starvation. Okay, in the previous question, you know that. Okay, so decreases of algae population because the algae die of starvation, and then not sufficient food for the shrimp, and then shrimp, they die due to starvation. Also these 3 key thinking steps. Okay, so actually what I'm teaching you, that's the logical thinking, to analyze the whole thing, but not only memorize any the rote learning. Okay, to simply memorize all the thing and then memorize all the marking scheme. No, sorry, I'm not teaching this. I'm teaching how can you think. That's a thinking method. Okay, that's the mindset of a scientist. Okay, so for part C is that also for the other student, okay, he doesn't buy from the shop. Okay, he would like to make his own, okay, his own ecosphere. Okay, so that's why he used the same material and same organism, okay, mentioned in the article. Okay, but the result is that the shrimps, they also die. Okay, even they put the ecosphere next to the window to obtain sunlight. For the previous case, okay, very clever student, okay, he puts the Exculsive in the box, but now he puts the Exculsive near the window咯喎, okay, so he asked the teacher, and teacher say that because you add too much shim, okay, too many to the Exculsive, just too much. So why? What is the reason? Okay, and of course there is a precaution. Okay, regard the problem of the weather. Okay, is it good or not? Okay, and if you say that, oh, because in this week it's raining, okay, actually it's so cloudy, not sufficient sunlight, okay, and then just like the case in the puppy, okay, so don't worry, okay, don't worry, it's really a sunny day, very good day, okay, but why do they die or because of the student, okay, he adds too much shim, okay. So in this part, actually it follows the concept of the three thinking steps: environmental factor, effect on the organism, and the cause of death, okay. But you need to think about what is the problem of adding too many or too much shims, okay. What's wrong, okay, what's wrong, okay. So you need to think about what do they need, what do the shims need, okay. So in this question I would like to recall the concept is that there's the algae, okay, and the shim, okay, any interaction, okay, among them, okay. In the ecosphere, if they would like to live happily, okay, the algae all release oxygen by photosynthesis, and then the oxygen, the shim will get it, intake it by respiration to release energy, okay, so they do not be afraid of suffocation, okay. And they also produce carbon dioxide for the algae again. Such a beautiful balance, okay. And of course, one more thing I would like to talk about is that the algae, they also need oxygen for themselves, okay, because for the algae they can undergo photosynthesis and respiration, photo and resp. And for the shim, they only carry out respiration, okay. So at least this balance, this interaction, that's something you need to know, you have to know, okay. But now the question is that too much shim, how can they so-called destroy this balance, okay. How can they destroy this beautiful balance of gases, okay, why, okay, and how, okay. So you need to think about it, okay. So for this part, we know that, oh, too much shim, that means the rate of respiration, we compare it with the photosynthesis rate of the algae, okay. We know that because we add too much shims, so that's why the rate of respiration of the shim will exceed the rate of photosynthesis of the algae, okay. Even the balance should be very beautiful, but there are so much shim to uptake the oxygen, okay, just too fast, and the algae, okay, not fast enough to produce the oxygen, okay. And then that's why the consumption of oxygen will be faster than the release of oxygen, okay. And some textbook, they may use the other word, production of oxygen, the same idea, okay, absolutely the same idea, consumption, production, okay, but we are talking about oxygen. And then finally, okay, no more oxygen at all and die of suffocation, okay, same idea, absolutely the same idea, okay. Environmental factor, effect of organism and cause of death. But of course, in this question, because the environmental factor, it should be very nice, so that's why we may skip it for this question only, because the question told me to regret, okay, the problem of the weather, okay. So actually no more environmental factor at all, but you need to think about the interaction of the organisms and why do they die, okay. And for the last part, So the student, okay, he did it again, okay, because for the first trial, okay, it's failed. So that's why in this time, for the last time, I add too much shame, okay. So at this time, I add more algae, is okay lah, okay, more algae. It really makes sense, because more algae, they can undergo photosynthesis quickly, faster, and produce more oxygen for the shrimp and also for themselves. Well, that's so great. So actually, I expect all organisms, okay, they can survive. It should be very good, okay. So take a look here. However, okay, it also caused the death of the shrimp. Okay, they also die. So sad. Okay, so in this part, okay, what you need to think about is the environment factor. Okay, you need to extend more. The environmental factor, okay, it has the effect again. And this time, what I want to ask is about the nature. Okay, you put it near the window to obtain the sunlight. That means actually it's a nature environment. Okay, so in this part for the light, okay, you need to think about the daytime and also the night. Okay, because in this part, in this question, it's not talking about the student put the Ecosphere under the lamp, okay, and turn it on 24 hours. Okay, no, not this case. Just near the window to obtain the sunlight. So how about at night? What will happen? Okay, just what I mentioned before. For the algae, they can carry out photo-MSP at daytime, but they only carry out respiration at night. They cannot produce oxygen at night. So what will be the problems? Okay, so environmental factor and the effect on the organisms, and what is the reason of death. So actually these three steps, okay, appear again. Think about it, okay, train your brain. Okay, so in this part, at night, environmental factor, no more light. For what? For the algae to undergo photosynthesis. So the result will be so many algae, okay, they will compete oxygen with the shrimp to do the respiration, to respire, okay, respiration, and then the cause of the death, okay, they die, suffocation, because the algae, the question say that too much algae, that means algae, they can compete the oxygen and they will win. Okay, so that's why the shrimp, they die because of suffocation. Okay, that's the basic concept here. Okay, so in this part, what I want you to know is that what is the biotic and abiotic factor, and also what is the interaction among them, and also these thinking steps. Okay, how can you know the concept? How can you analyze the ecosystem or the ecosphere, okay, with the hints, okay, with the basic information. Okay,